notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. Everybody's seen a copy of the, let's find out actually if we have a forum.
Good. That's it.
There are 6 here.
Only 2 seats missing, right?
No Ann will be out, that's the only one we know for sure. And how do we determine who, if anybody, is online with us?
I think you've got Nick and Ian.
Yep.
There they are.
Okay.
Okay, there's one. One. Oh. Two.
Two.
All right, we can then proceed with business. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as published. By now you will receive the copy. Somebody like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
A second, Ryan. All in favor, please say aye. Raise the hand for those, there you go. Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda shall be approved. Same story with the minutes. Everybody should have read the minutes by now. Any comments, additions, changes to the minutes? Not entertain a motion to approve the minutes as published. Tom? Second?
Yeah, a couple with red lights on.
Yeah. Mine's on. 2 of them are on. Okay.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Thank you. It's on now. I had it off. All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. All in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hands if you're virtually.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. We now come to the portion of the meeting which allows for our public, our massive public appearance today, to have 3 minutes to comment on any subject pertaining to the Beaufort County Airports Board. Would any of our public? Nobody? Hearing none, we will continue. John?
You want to recognize the...
I will be up there. You're up.
All right, thank you. Welcome to the board meeting for May. Let's see, run through some project updates. First, what you see in front of you here, this is the spec book, one of 2 spec books for the terminal. And that is a half-size set of plans for the terminal. So we've been a little bit busy at the airport, so if you haven't got me on the phone, that might have something to do with it. I'm still trying to digest these guys. That's here because the terminal project's out for bid right now, which is huge. Okay, that's a big milestone. Bids are due on June the 9th, so we did the pre-bid meeting this past Tuesday. So we're getting questions in from the bidders and that sort of thing, so that'll all be pulled together and answered. There'll be 2 addenda that go out, one tomorrow and one, I think maybe next week or maybe just before the bids open, maybe June 1st. So that's moving on down the line, and once we receive those bids and open the bids, then we'll hopefully have a successful submittals and be able to move that forward towards the bid award. So looking for probably August time frame, to get that up to council. They typically take July off to give them a break because they're pretty meeting heavy all year long. So we'll be back with them in August to get that moving forward. In between that, in July, we'll be applying for that AIP grant from the FAA for that second $10 million for the terminal. So by receiving the bids on the 9th and having some good bids in, that allows us to go ahead and apply for that second $10 million. So good news on that. If everything kind of moves along in step the way we think it will, then we'll be looking to award hopefully during September. So any questions on what that looks like? I know it's been a long time until I could lay out a bit of a time frame for you, but we're finally in the position to do that. Okay, no questions? All right, we'll move along. Next project to talk about is the ramp expansion project over at the terminal. That is, I'd call it 98% complete right now. They're doing the joint saw cutting and sealing today. Should be done by the end of this week. And then striping happens next week, and they'll be done by Memorial Day. So the ramp will be completely finished. All the lights are active, sod, everything is in, so all the finishing touches are happening. So that'll be complete here in about a week. So exciting project to have complete there. A lot of room there. It's going to give us, like I think I said before, that'll serve as a laydown area and construction area for the terminal. And we'll be able to fence that so that you don't have to have everybody applying for a badge, which saves a lot of time, money, energy, and all that good stuff with the contractor. So it makes life a little bit easier, at least for those phases of the project. Questions on the ramp project? Somebody's got to ask me if we're going to be able to use it this summer for airplanes. Everybody asks me that. Yes, I'll ask it for you and answer it for you. Yes, we will be able to use it if we do have backups or if we have a maintenance bird or something like that. We'll be able to use that this summer, so we won't necessarily have quite the issue we had last summer with airplanes backed up on the taxiway and stuck in all four corners of the airport. Brian?
That actually is different from what you said before. When we first talked about this, you said it wasn't going to be used for airplanes. So now you've answered my next question, which is what's going to happen when we got 20 airplanes needing a place to park this summer?
Well, I didn't tell you that the story wouldn't change. Though, we'll probably even be able to use it a little bit during construction, but it'll be a little bit more of a choreographed event there because there won't be as much room. So even still, we'll meet with the tower and meet with the airline so everybody understands how things could work this summer. So there'll still be some coordination, but that's good that we have a little bit extra room, a lot of extra room out there.
John, is it possible for the office to put together a schedule of flights as they exist or as you know them through today or tomorrow, end of the week, from the various airlines? Just
For the summer?
Yeah, for the summer. I know we don't have them fully scheduled yet.
Yeah, we just have through June, that's all we have.
Possible to get the June schedule?
Sure, I can have Elaine email them out, we've got them.
Yeah, she normally sends it
Yeah, I
Okay.
think they might have gone out, did they go out?
out. She always sends it out.
Yeah,
Of course, she
but-
can go on.
Okay, we'll double
Yeah,
check,
so
but we'll send it back out. I don't know if we've got them on the website or not, but we'll get them out, but we don't have the whole summer picture, so.
Whatever you have would be great.
Sure. All right, projects, the other one, we did apply for another BIL grant. If you remember, I explained the different grants that were out there. And as of the last meeting, I think maybe the notice of funding opportunity had just come out for the tower, for the competitive tower grant. So we did apply for that. That's had to be an federally contracted tower, which ours is, and it has to be owned by the airport, which ours is. So we did apply for that. The funding that we applied for would cover new consoles, new voice switching gear for up in the cab, and then some other kind of equipment and material replacements up there. I don't know if we'll get that. It's kind of an odd angle on these, on the way the administration framed these BIL applications. They really want green everything, and you need to be in an impoverished area, which obviously we're not. So we tried to make the case that the employment in the workforce comes into the island from, areas that have difficulties economically. But, I'm trying not to be overly excited about an award on that one. I'm not sure that we'll get anything for the tower. If we do, I'll be, pleasantly surprised. I'm not sure the administration will look at Hilton Head and say, you really need money there, So don't get your hopes up, but if we get it, it'll be a bonus.
Is there still an opportunity to take a look at radar or some sort of repeater radar from Savannah or Charleston, or is that pretty much?
Not in the context of a grant application.
Okay.
No. We're working that on some parallel tracks though to continue, but it's a tough one to get some traction because basically every door we've opened so far is no, but we're opening doors again and again to see what we can come up with. So yeah, we're definitely not stopping on that. It's not an easy lift. Okay, let's see. One of the issues or one of the good developments that we're having as we put together kind of the terminal package as far as funding goes in relationship with the airlines and other tenants at the airport goes, is we're working with our financial consultant to put together what's called a cost recovery model. And basically it's a really robust spreadsheet that accounts for every expense item on the airport and allocates them to different cost centers. So we currently don't have that, although we do have permits under which the airlines operate. This new model will give us a way to more accurately kind of put all the expenses of the airport across different cost centers and recover those expenses. So right now, the airport department itself is basically supporting the airport more so than the tenants are. And so we're going to do that in a more, I guess, I hate to use the word equitable, but in the real sense of the word, a more equitable way across the board, and also have a more predictable model so that when tenants approach us, future tenants approach us, we've got a model that we can show them as to how their costs will be kind of assessed on the airport. So that's a work in progress, but we're very excited to have that here when it comes to fruition.
John,
Probably be towards the end of the year when that's
May
finished.
I ask the definition of tenants?
Anybody who is on the airport who generates revenue.
Including airlines?
Oh, yeah. They're the number 1, 2, and 3. So that just brings kind of a reminder to everybody, any business, any entity on the airport or using the airport that generates revenue by federal law, by FAA sponsor assurances, has to have an agreement with the airport, has to pay back something to the airport. I don't think that's a new thing, but that's for anybody. So we're working through that. There are some entities that we know of kind of at both places that maybe have not done that in the past, and we're working to clean that up because it happens. It's hard to track everybody. But we'll work on that through our contract office. Let's see, update on staff. We still have some openings in with our admin position. Elena's still wearing several hats for us, so we're thankful about that. We're trying to transition her out of this so that she can focus more on finance, but she's kind of stuck with us a little bit. And then we've also got some operations maintenance positions open as well. We did transition from just using the county's job opportunities link on the website to now using a more robust presence on Indeed.com. Because what we're running into is that, frankly, folks who live on or near Hilton Head Island typically don't apply for Beaufort County jobs because they think they're going to have to drive to Beaufort. They don't necessarily look at the job opportunity and see that it's on the island. So by going through Indeed and being able to kind of beef up our scope of work or our offer, so to speak, we've been getting a lot more applicants. So that's a good news story. So we'll do some interviews and hopefully fill those positions. Just an update from the feds. We do stay really close with Congresswoman Mace's office. She had reps at a recent chamber, I think it was the legislative, or the Government Affairs Committee, it was 2 weeks ago, and we attended that and had a good interface with that committee and with her rep, who's the new district rep who sits in Beaufort. His home office is at her Beaufort office. So good communications there. They did write us a letter of support for the SCASD grant, so they always are staying in our corner, which is good. The Southern Carolina Alliance, which some of you may or may not know about, but it's the Economic Development Alliance that the county is affiliated with. The county is a member of Southern Carolina Alliance. They had a representative reach out to me last week, and they're developing basically a story about the different transportation, cargo hubs, and things like that across the alliance. It's a regional alliance. We happen to have the only commercial airport that's in the alliance, so I did an interview with the writer and sent a lot of backup information about both airports to talk about the kind of the vibrancy of both airports and the relevance of both airports and what that means to economic development and what those airports contribute, not just to the county overall, but to the two municipalities in which they're located. Obviously, the town of Hilton Head Island benefits incredibly from having the airport sit here, and the city of Beaufort benefits incredibly from having ARW sit in the city. So we're trying to tell that story, and that'll be coming out in I think, a near future publication. So if anybody pays attention to the Southern Carolina Alliance, look for that. If not, I'll probably get a copy and make sure that it gets out to you. I did let the South Carolina Aviation Association know about that as well, too, so they can get it across the state, because publicity is a good thing. Just quick notes on ARW. Another really strong fuel sales month. If you looked at the backup slides, you can see just tremendous activity up there. Yesterday we had, I went outside and there was a line of 2 aircraft getting ready to depart. And Paul told me that just before I went out there had been a line of 4 aircraft getting ready to depart. So it's a busy place. There's a lot going on up there. The majority of the aircraft that I've seen, you know, when I'm up there a few times a week, is turboprop and small jet. So we're selling a lot of jet fuel up there, which is great. So it's an airport that is very, very relevant to the economic picture up there. It brings a lot of people of a very selective demographic to the city of Beaufort, which is great for us and great for the city. And it's just it's a success story up there. I think that new terminal gets great comments. We had folks come in and just kind of stand there and look around when they walk through the lobby doors. So it's a huge improvement. We're going to work on the exterior of the building next. We did receive a hospitality tax grant from Beaufort County. So we're going to apply that as a matching fund to some South Carolina aeronautics dollars that we're going to apply for. And that's actually one of your action items today. But anyway, that's going to allow us to do a nice, robust project on the outside of the terminal too. So looking forward to that.
John,
Next,
excuse
yes.
me on that. What was the amount of the grant from the county?
75.
Oh, what do we get? Was it 75,
I
Steve?
think it was 75, it's in that.
75,000 from HTAX.
Okay. Did we also receive, or maybe I'm off target here, did we also receive a marketing grant from the county?
For Hilton Head, we received 30,000 in marketing funds from county HTAX money as well.
Thank you.
Also at ARW, we are moving forward on the T-hangers. So we'll be working through, we have ARPA funds that we're going to use to work on the design of that. So that'll be starting here soon, looking at doing 2 12-unit T-hanger buildings out there. So we're very excited about that. And that was a product of the past project where we had, and I'm going to say thanks to Walmart, they brought sewer. They were required to bring sewer across the road, which we were then able to tap into, which relieved us of the septic field and replacement field, which freed up real estate for the hangar project. So when people ask me, why does it take so doggone long? That's why it takes so doggone long. There's never an easy project. You know, there's always 15 steps to get through, and you end up relying and depending on outside agencies to get their work done before you can get your work done. So it's all coming together now, and we're moving forward on T-hangers. Chris knows we've got a huge need up there. I think our list is, Paul can chime in if he needs to, but I know we're over 60 people on the list, and those are people who have actually paid a deposit. So theoretically, I would say at least 65 or 70% of those are legitimate. You know, they would take a hangar if there was one.
Are we going to use Beaufort Executive Airport Improvement Committee? Are we going to be involved in that for the design on the T-hangers?
I think you certainly could.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a good idea just to kind of go through, and so that way we would probably be the only pilots in the design portion of it.
Sure, yeah. I think it's, now, granted, it's a little bit of a cookie cutter thing, but
Yeah.
I think it's important too, just to have you guys involved, and then you can give the updates at the meetings too.
Yeah, I'm happy to
You
do
know,
that.
I think
Yeah,
that'd be great.
that's, as you know, John, it's a 4-person committee that Chris heads up with Mark, Trey, and Nick participating, but we do have some pilots involved, and that would be great if you made it somewhat inclusive.
All right, consider that your project, Chris.
Okay, I'll add that to my list. My wife will be so happy.
Yeah, there you go. But you're now recorded as offering that.
I know,
So
I know.
you're really-
I knew it was being
You're
video
really in trouble
recorded.
now. Okay. That is all I've got for the update. Any questions for me, Leslie?
Could you comment on the recent aircraft accident at ARW where it went off the runway?
Oh, boy, that was a party. Yeah, it was a minor mishap, thank goodness. No injuries, and I guess overall kind of minimal damage to the aircraft. But don't know exactly how things happened, but what happened is there was a extra 400, I don't know, kind of a small, heavy but small aircraft.
Yeah,
They ran off the end of the runway, was taken off going south, and thank goodness stayed right on the center line of the runway. And as they went through the safety area, they were able to keep the nose up a little bit so that they didn't do any kind of flip in the marsh when they got into the marsh. But everything went about as smoothly as a mishap can go. They did obviously have a prop strike, so those sheared off. Some damage to the the front landing gear as it entered the marsh, but it was almost like a natural EMAS, stopped the aircraft. No injuries to the pilot or the one passenger who was in the aircraft. No damage to fuel systems, hydraulic systems, so there were no hazmat issues that we had. I was on my way from Hilton Head to Beaufort when I got the call about it. Paul Dolan called me from vacation, so God bless him. He was on the phone a good bit that day, doing a lot of coordination to get the right entities involved. Huge kudos to Chief Bruce Klein of Ladies Island St. Helena Fire District. Those guys are always on it. They've helped us out a lot in the past. They were there and the sheriff's office responded. And so they had everything basically taken care of as far as FAA involvement and that sort of thing went before I arrived. And then Steve arrived, so we then kind of took over. But by that point, Chief had been in touch with the FAA, took all the photographs that the FAA wanted and submitted those to the FAA so that they were satisfied that we could then move the aircraft from outside the safety area, and recover the aircraft. So I shut the airport down knowing that we're going to have a crane out there. And then the aircraft owner called the crane, coordinated that. Nothing happens quickly after business hours. So the incident happened somewhere around 18:30, 6:30 p.m. And I think the crane showed up 2200, Steve, give or take. So Steve and I were out there until about 02, fishing the aircraft out of the marsh. And I wish we were doing it. We got to watch, which was very interesting. But I tell you, the folks at Certified Crane in Beaufort deserve 2 thumbs up too. They're good. They've helped us out before, so they know what they're doing. And a couple of them are pilots too, which is good because they know airplanes. But as it so happens, the aircraft owner had done one of his careers in aircraft salvage. So he called the crane company and they were able to talk through how to rig it up to move the aircraft. And it was perfect. Aircraft didn't move at all when it was slung and brought back to the surface. Just did a fantastic job. But because the aircraft was out in the marsh a little bit, they had to get a large crane because they had to reach out and get it. It wasn't a straight vertical snatch. So interesting operation. You always learn something from that. Thankful that we had the good first responders on board and a great crane company, frankly, to recover that aircraft. Because it really could, if we were somewhere else, it could take a day or more to get a crane out there. So relatively fast response, not bad, no damage to the airport. So all in all, about as smooth as a mishap can go.
Was it pilot error?
I have no idea.
Too early to tell.
It was.
Too early to tell.
Yes, too early to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not going to speculate. I didn't see it happen, and I'm going to let other folks figure that out.
John, was that aircraft a tenant at the airport, a transient? And do you know if he was just out there on a fuel stop, or he was out there on business, or what were the circumstances?
Transient who was actually in training on a different aircraft type with executive flight training.
Are there any mitigation issues with the marshland that the plane was in?
No.
Awesome, thank you.
That was the second question I asked after, is everyone okay? Yep.
You also noted that there are 60-some-odd people on the hangar waiting list at ARW. Offhand, do you know what the list is like for Hilton Head?
I think we're in the 40s.
40-some-odd with deposits.
Yep. So we definitely have need for hangars at both airports. All right, any other questions? All right, Mr. Chairman, back to you.
Okay. Move on to unfinished business. Anybody have anything from last month they'd like to bring back to the table? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. John?
Okay. I think we left 2 items on, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the 2 items we have, one's for ARW, and that's kind of the easier one, the grant. It's a request to apply for a grant. Okay, so it's what I just talked about with the exterior renovations of the terminal, and we do intend to apply to South Carolina Aeronautics for a matching grant. They do a 60, we do a 40, but we do intend to apply for that, and in order to apply for a grant, we do need to take it through council. So first step is you guys approving it, second step, it goes to committee, and then it moves on to
And we already have the matching grant. We
Correct.
already have the matching funds, I should say.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, you need a vote on that issue?
So you can vote on that, and then I'll go into the other
All
one.
right, we need a motion maker to recommend the approval of Beaufort County Executive Airport applying for the South Carolina Aeronautics Grant in support of the exterior terminal renovations. Brian, vote. Chris, second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those, virtually, thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
All right, thank you. And the second one is, and I apologize, I don't have backup for this yet because we're still trying to work out the exact backup required. But the final property that we need to purchase for Hilton Head Island Airport, located on that Hunter Road section, is number 36. We've worked on it for quite a long time, done multiple appraisals and review appraisals on it. We're finally at the point where the FAA has approved a dollar figure. We've talked to the owner, and we're at a place where we have agreement. And so in order to purchase that property, the general fund will basically loan the airport the money to purchase the property. And then because of the fact that this purchase is taking place within what is, I'll call it the action period for BIL funds, for the airport improvement grant portion of BIL, which is basically, I hate to use the word entitlement, but it's basically entitlement money through BIL. We're going to be able to apply for reimbursement for this project almost immediately after purchase. So the good news for that is, although the general fund will make the initial purchase, we'll be able to reimburse the general fund at the 90% rate very quickly thereafter, and then we're going to be able to use ARPA funds for the county match. So we'll be able to reimburse the general fund 100% very quickly after the purchase through BIL and ARPA funds. So that's, and our attorneys are drafting a resolution to more clearly state that than I just did, or more confusingly state it, so council will approve it. But that'll go and get approved by council, and then we'll execute that agreement. We'll have all 5 of the properties, and the beauty of this one is that Avis Budget uses that property currently to service their vehicles and clean the rental cars. That they will remain there until such time that we need to actually use that property for, you know, expanded parking or what have you. And in the meantime, the airport/county will have a lease with them and will generate revenue from that property, which the FAA likes.
John, is the county advancing the money with an interest attached to it, or are they simply advancing the money that you'll have to pay back dollar for dollar?
That I don't know yet. The CFO is working on that, and I don't know that he's gotten clarification from the senior administration yet. If we do, I think it would be a pretty low amount. I'm not sure there's a point to doing that now because it looks like we'll be able to reimburse those funds so quickly.
And who's the holder of the lease for the property? Is the airport the lessor, or is the county the lessor for Avis?
The county is.
County, okay.
John, what's the proximity of that lot to the new tarmac and so forth? Where is it physically located?
That property, I don't know how familiar you are with Hunter Road, but out of the 5 properties we purchased, this is the westernmost or closest to Beach City Road. So actually the farthest away from the terminal, the farthest away from the new apron.
Any other questions for John? Need a motion on the vote on this one also?
Yes, please.
We'll entertain a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the use of county funds to purchase 36 Hunter Road as part of the terminal area improvement projects. Need a motion maker?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Don't look so enthusiastic, Joe.
Second, yeah. Any discussion, any further discussion on the motion? If none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. And
Aye.
for those virtually, thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
All right, thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, John. Nice report. All right, we're going to move on to committee reports. And Leslie, we're going to start out with you since you have the most action going at the moment. I also, again, I want to thank Leslie publicly for organizing the effort at Hilton Head Airport this summer with a volunteer crew to support both incoming and outgoing passengers at the airport. It'll be an excellent program. And once again, I'm going to urge board members, some of whom have not yet decided to participate in a voluntary manner to help support the program, to please do so. It really requires only one, preferably two, 4 or more if you can, 4-hour sessions at the airport during the summer months, and there are blocks available, so please contact Leslie, offer some support here. And that's both true for south of the airport folks, the Hilton Head side, and north of the Broad, up at the Beaufort Executive Airport. So please keep that in mind.
And I want to thank those board members who have volunteered and stepped up. So it's you know, we now have 11 volunteers, and we start first week in June. It's a weekend program from 11 to 3 on Saturdays and Sundays. So we did some training, thanks to Steve for setting up the training for us and also giving all the volunteers a great tour of the airport. We'll continue to develop the project, and I'm sure it will be a learning curve, but at least we'll have some people out there to help answer questions and help to move the crowds. And so we're just waiting to see what the numbers are going to be of passengers.
Leslie, just for the record also, have you contacted the Hilton Head Beaufort Chamber of Commerce, and have they offered any support for the program?
I have been in touch with Hilton Head Chamber, yes.
Do we have any support from them at
I
this time?
haven't gotten any people yet, but we're hoping we'll get some support.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Leslie on the summer program? We'll be looking for names to show up on that volunteer list. Jim, Communications and Marketing.
No new report?
Thank you. Leslie, we were an ARW. Chris?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I did swing back in, since I hadn't been there in a little bit, to the Greenie area, and just like John had said, it's a lot nicer. It's a huge improvement. The design was, I think, excellent. I think it maximized everything. There's still a few things to be done, but very minimal. Anybody that's been in there before and after, I think, will be more than pleasantly surprised. They're still working on though I have to get up with the person moving forward with the private side on the hangar, and that's really on me. Paul had given me his number, and I just hadn't been in town to contact him. So I'll be contacting him hopefully tomorrow and finding out kind of more about where he's at, because we still don't have a lease on that, if I'm mistaken, correct? We don't have a lease. Right, okay.
Right, we don't have the lease. He's got it to review and get comments back.
Yeah, okay, great.
And Chris, are you talking about the leaseback opportunity, the large box hangar? Or
Yeah, large box hangar,
Okay.
yeah. And I believe that's primarily it, other than we have, I think I just saw something go out. I got an email regarding the race, the Frogmore race. October on that. And they had a meeting, Beaufort Aviation Association did a meeting with ATC from the guys from the air station on a Saturday that I heard went really well. I wasn't able to attend, I was out of town.
That reminds me that Beaufort Aviation Associates also hosting, along with the help of Lockheed Martin, I think, Nick, you guys were involved, a career day, aviation career day. I think it's June 4th. I'm actually going to be out of town, unfortunately, but Jim's put that together a couple of times, and it's kind of grown in popularity. But I think it's a great way to bring folks to the airport and then expose them to different types of aviation opportunities, employment opportunities, and let them know the different career fields in aviation. Everybody thinks that you just have to fly, but there's, a million different things you can do related to aviation. So there'll be a lot of different aviation-related industries represented at this, I don't know to call it a job fair really, but just kind of an awareness type event. So really look forward to that, and I don't think there's a better venue to host that at than the airport. So we're happy to be, I guess, kind of an in-kind sponsor is how the airport considers itself, but to be able to provide that venue to do that, and Jim's done a good job putting that together for it.
And I believe they're also doing some flights for young people to just give them an experience of flight. There's some pilots out there donating their time and plane to take some kids up.
Well, just a segue to that too, is that our follow-up is that if you remember last month, you approved the Altitude Academy to be a beneficiary of some of the race proceeds. Well, the pilots are flying some of those students, school students who are getting exposed to aviation too. So hoping that you put a few of those, youngsters in an airplane and the bug bites them, and then we'll have some future aviation career folks in there. So I think everybody up there is really putting their best foot forward to further aviation. And heaven knows we need it with the pilot shortage and everything else right now. So I know this will take a while to germinate, but the seeds are being planted, and nothing but good can come from it.
Yeah, and on the last part of that, kind of piggybacking off the more of the excitement that's happening at ARW, from the staff at ARW, I'm hearing a lot more input of people asking about charter, whether there's any private charter around available in Beaufort, which is something we really had never heard, that was not talked about at all. So,
Be an interesting business
yeah,
opportunity, Chris,
it would be an interesting business opportunity.
for that new aircraft.
From the sea to the air.
All right, so I also want to thank John and Chris, along with the rest of your committee. Great job over at ARW. If there are people who have not been out there in the last year or so, please make it a point, find some time, drive out there and look, or we can organize a little caravan or field trip. A dramatic change, and we can see it in the numbers, see it in the fuel purchases and the operation. So great job to John and Chris and the rest of the committee. All right, Finance Committee, that's me. Have nothing to report on the finance issue right now. And the Hilton Head Airport Improvement Committee. We've kind of taken a bit of a back seat in the last year and a half or two. John, of course, and Steve have had their hands full over on the commercial side of the airport, taking an enormous amount of time and effort. And ARW was the focus. It needed a lot more help than Hilton Head did, and fortunately got it. But the Airport Improvement Committee on the Hilton Head side will now start to get a little more active. And the areas that we plan to deal with, as I alluded to before, are some of the T hangars. We have a waiting list over at Hilton Head. We're sold out the T hangars, T hangar maintenance, and we will have a discussion with John regarding the vendor agreements that the FAA requires for the airport. So over the next 30 to 60 days, John's time permitting, we will get involved a little bit more with Hilton Head. We'd also like to talk about an airport day at Hilton Head, similar to what folks have pulled off at ARW, to get more of the public involved in our airport and recognize the benefits that this airport brings to Hilton Head, and the county as well. And just as a point of information, and I may do this each month, maybe not, I'd like to just review the fuel prices that we see in the 4 closest airports to Hilton Head. And currently, according to the latest publicly available data, at Hilton Head, 100 low lead, which is for the piston aircraft, is $827. Over at ARW, I believe it's $589. Is that what it is? ARW is $827, $589 across the Sound. Ridgeland is $575, and down at Savannah, Shelter is at $990, and Signature $697. Signature $1.50 lower at Savannah than it is at Hilton Head. Jet A prices at Hilton Head are $10.19 now for jet fuel, a turbine-powered aircraft. ARW is $5.99, a little more than half of what it is over here. Ridgeland doesn't provide Jet A, and Savannah out of Signature is, I believe, $5.47 for Jet A. So quite a disparity in fuel prices. Not much I think we can do about it, but it's one of my favorite topics, especially at Hilton Head, because the folks who visit our airport are paying a substantial premium for fuel. In fact, Hilton Head, $1.50 more a gallon than down in Savannah.
Yeah.
Logic defies me, but I'm sure somebody would have an explanation for that.
Do they have any self-serve over there? They may have to change the pumps to deal with 2 digits.
Actually, self-serve at Savannah, which I didn't mention, is $5.49 if they wanted to pull up to a pump and pump it themselves. So, great disparity in fuel prices. So that's all I have for the Hilton Head Airport Improvement Committee. I'll just remember that I'm on it. Brian and Tom join me, and we will be getting together to discuss that. Okay, any other business? John, anything else that you have? Steve, nothing? With that, we'll go back to our public comment, and oh, we have 2 public today would like to comment. Go on, Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glenn Stanford, Town of Hilton Head Island. I just want to express appreciation to you, Leslie, and to the rest of the committee for the ambassador program. It has really made a positive impact on our tourists arriving and departing here, and so you've done a wonderful job on that.
you.
And then secondly, John, you may not have it now, but I would like to be kept up to date with passenger traffic going through Hilton Head Airport, arrivals as well as departures, just to see what the trends are. Sure. Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, David. David Ames, Hilton Head Town Council, the liaison to the Hilton Head Airport.
Appreciate the opportunity. Last month, John made a pitch that all of us should get over to the terminal in Beaufort and check it out. I took that opportunity. I had a meeting with the town councils over there, and I think it was the next day, and I actually flew over to Beaufort and got the courtesy car and drove into town. And I have to applaud all the work of the board and also John for doing an incredible job. It's really spectacular. Secondly, Leslie, in the broadest terms, who are you looking for to be an ambassador? So that if I hit on somebody,
All
I
right,
might.
well, the very general requirements are they need to be 18 years old and a resident of Beaufort County. We want people that live here and understand the low country, but are also in a welcoming nature, that they want to welcome all our visitors. That's what it's about. It's for our visitors. Also, it has to be someone who can stand for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's pretty intense. You're out there moving the lines and talking to people. And I had one potential volunteer that asked me about, have they got coffee there yet? Because I'll need my coffee break. And I said, well.
And is it all inside?
Yes, it's all inside.
Okay.
Uh-huh. There
The,
is coffee, but I told her there's no coffee break.
Well, the union rules allow for one.
Get
10 minutes off every hour.
what is the hangar rent in Beaufort at this time for a standard T hangar?
336. 345. 345.
All right, thank you. I've been approached by a native islander, a Gullah, pitching a place in the terminal, or at least the ability to apply to be a concessionaire in the terminal when the terminal is done. And I think that would be very good from a community standpoint. How that would look, what the menu might be, what the concessionaire might be doing, I'm not sure at this time, but I just think to have a representative of our Gullah culture in the terminal would be advantageous. The last thing I wanted to mention, and since you brought it up regarding the vendors on the airport itself. I've had a conversation with John on this. Howard and I have talked. I think we are in a spot where we're not serving our pilots, aircraft owners on Hilton Head and perhaps in Beaufort County, I won't speak to that, in a way that we should be. I've had a situation where I could have what I consider probably the best person to maintain the appearance of my airplane, touch up paint and so on. He's dropped out of the program at this point, and I am at a loss as to what and where I should go for that service. It is absolutely inconvenient for our owners to not be able to access, going to call it piece maintenance work for the airport, whether it's mechanical or whether it's superficial, whatever. But I really would encourage the board to see what flexibility we have in creating contracts that allow this to happen. We may not have enough business for somebody to be on the airport 100% of their time, but if we could have people come to the airport twice a month or on a need-be basis, I think we would be serving your clientele, my associates, in a much higher level, and I think it would behoove us to look at that as a service to our pilots. Thank you.
All right, thank you, David, and that is an item that we will discuss, and, you know, we know to a certain extent John's hands are somewhat tied here, but we'll look to see if there's any flexibility in dealing with the issue. I'd also like to, one little follow-up on a point that you made on the Gullah folks here. Excellent suggestion. If we can work out some space in the new terminal, certainly if there's any space in the summer terminal to allow a representative to appear. They have And many of our islanders don't even know, they have an outstanding tour, a gullah tour that's done on a bus. And if you haven't taken that, I would encourage you all to explore that. It's a very, very interesting tour and very historic tour, very informative. And maybe, Leslie, you can contact those folks and see, at the very least, if there's some material they can provide to the ambassadors that we can include with airline schedules or anything else that we might have to hand out
Okay. Also,
during the ambassador program.
I might recommend that in the off-season, I realize we're very limited with space at our airport, especially over the summer, but don't we have art displays or some sort of art at the airport occasionally that we could perhaps reach out to the Gullah community and ask them to participate in that? That might be a way of getting the word out for them.
I also, and I'm remiss in neglecting to mention it, and for those of you thinking of volunteering, please execute your thought. But Leslie and Steve put together an outstanding training program, both over at ARF, and then took the folks over to the main terminal behind some of the security fences to explain how things really operate and what the role of the ambassador will and will not be while at the airport. So Steve, thank you for your efforts as well. Anybody else with any other information? No more public. Stu is gone. So with that, I remind everybody that our next meeting is on June 16th. And as far as I know, it is now scheduled to be over in Beaufort. Your physical attendance would be very much appreciated, especially for the folks who are looking at us from the monitor at the moment. 1:30 over in the Beaufort Council Chambers, unless otherwise notified. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Jim?
Second.
Brian? All in favor? Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.